And we have returned. Wait. Now we've returned because I forgot to uncover the camera. Welcome back to the stream, everybody. That right there was Sandon Sale's Cave Raid of course, the Hat in Time soundtrack. That's off of the B-side, and it is by Pascal Michael Stiefel. Stiefel? I never know how to pronounce the man's name. The guy who did the soundtrack for most of the game. Anyway, there we are. But yeah. So, welcome back. It's been a while. I have not streamed in a bit. Last time I did was I streamed a bunch of Kenshi, I believe. And I figured it was about time I went back to something a little bit different, but also something very familiar if I have the time. But, I don't know if I've got too much to say before I begin. It's not that things haven't been happening, so I suppose I may as well talk about that. Hello, Rolls. Welcome back to the stream. Hopefully you're having a lovely day. So there's two major things that have been happening in my environs the past couple of weeks. Number one, the Canada Games are going on. St. John's is hosting it this year. Okay, cool, man. I'll see you when you get back. But yeah, St. John's is hosting the Canada Games this year. So, and a lot of the events are being played right down there, like just next to me. Like they've had a number of events they've done on the lake down there. There's a soccer pitch right next to it. There's a I think there's like a tennis court. I just heard a bunch of cheering just then, so I think they're playing soccer. I believe soccer is going on ages. Honestly, I haven't paid too much attention to the Canada Games, aside from me just walking back and forth and noticing that people are in. The place has been packed, is basically it. Oh, I heard you cheering for my stream. That's... It's pretty good. Yes, my hearing is very good. I hear you a country away. But no, my hearing is actually pretty good, but the funny thing about St. John's is that you can hear most anything in the city. And I mean, like I said, the soccer pitch is just down there. Like, I go down over the hill, it's there. There has been quite a lot of ruckus coming from that area all week. I honestly don't know how many events are during the are going on with the Canada Games. Like I said, I'm not following that much. I know there's been softball, there's been I think there's been tennis, there's soccer, there's been a number of boating activities, swimming, basketball, I think. There's been a bunch of stuff. That I haven't been paying much heed to the point where I thought it's like, oh, they're done after this week, right? No, I think there's another week of this before they're finished. All I know is it's been making it slightly more difficult to get around. And that, whatever. To each their own. I'm not as jazzed about it, but I can understand why it's a big deal. The second part of what's been happening the past couple of weeks has... Yeah, I think there's another soccer game. The other thing that's been happening the past couple of weeks, which is has affected the Canada Games, because they've had to postpone or relocate a number of events, is, and I mean, if you're a local and you've been following the news, or just looked out the fucking window the last couple of weeks, or if you're in Canada seeing the news, or even if you're somewhere else, a large chunk of the island is currently on fire. Well, I don't think it's as bad as it was at the beginning of the week, but I think we had 5 or 6 active forest fires, and a couple of them were really bad. I think one of them ended up creeping up to over 8,000 hectares or something like that at that point. I can't visualize that space, but it's a lot. It's a lot of fire. And a large part of the reason behind this is we have been going through the worst drought we've seen in 10 years. Well, over 10 years. The last one, apparently, according to someone who, measures these things, was in 2012, and it didn't last anywhere near this long. I think the one in 2012 lasted a few days. This has been over... I was going to say this has been over a week, but actually, we got a decent amount of rain for a few hours there, just as I got off work today. That was the first bit of rain we had since July 30th. So, and that bit of rain we had July 30th was a massive downpour and a thunderstorm that lasted only an hour, and all of that was dry by the time I went this morning. So yeah, a lot of the province is on fire. I can't even say the island because there's a couple of forest fires up in Labrador too now as well. There's one in Central. There's been a bunch on the Avalon Peninsula, so where I kind of currently am. One of them was so big and so bad, I think they've managed to tamp it down a bit or at least contain it. But it was getting close enough to St. John's, the capital city, where a large chunk of people live, that some of the outlying areas they had to put in an evacuation alert. Not an order, so people didn't have to leave. But they were like, if the wind shifts a certain way, you're going to have to pack your stuff and leave. That's how bad it is. So I think CBS, Conception Bay South, and parts of Mount Pearl, which are two large communities that are fairly close to St. John's. They were like, yeah, you might need to leave. So it's been pretty wild, is what I'm saying. I know we've had forest fires in the past, but I don't know that I've seen it this bad in my lifetime. I haven't left like this area of the city in ages, so I mean I haven't gone out home and hoping to take some time off and go out home. Originally, I was hoping to do so now in the tail end of this month. Probably going to be next month now. And I'm kind of nervy about seeing what it's going to look like driving from here to Catalina. That's a 3-hour drive, and you have to go through a lot of the areas that were affected. Now, I remember when we had a small forest fire out home years ago, and I mean, they dealt with that pretty quickly. That was harrowing enough, and you can still see it. Like, there's this scar of gray trees in the spot you can see from my parents' back deck. And that was 25 years ago. Even not 25 years ago, but it was at least 20 years ago that happened. So I can only imagine how bad this is going to look and for how long. Apparently, a number of structures in smaller towns were destroyed up in the northern peninsula. School burned down, I think, in one of the smaller communities. There's hundreds of buildings, I think, that have been lost. Several people have been displaced due to orders and stuff. And it's bad. it's really fucking bad. I don't know any other way to put it. So yeah, hopefully this shit gets straightened away fairly soon. I haven't had to deal with much of it, obviously, where I am. I think the worst of it has been kind of just outside the city. There's a pretty bad one in the center part of the island. I think they contain the one. And something I'm thankful for is that I think the spot I grew up hasn't seen much of this happen this summer, which is good because I don't know how I'd handle it if I found out that, you know, the area I grew up in, where a large chunk of my family is still, if that was on fire. I would not be doing well right now. Hell, I'm pretty bummed out as it is because of all of it. But the most that we've had to deal with is that depending on how the wind shifts, the city gets covered in smoke. And I think it was late last week. I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday. I got up to go out to work, and I walk out the door, and I look up in the sky, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty overcast today. Maybe we'll get some rain. That'd be nice. We really fucking need it. And then I step out the door, and the smell hits me immediately. It's just this intense smell of burning, and then I look up, and I can see the sun through the haze, the overcast haze that's in the sky, and I'm like, no, that's not cloud cover, that's smoke. Like, there's smoke as far as the eye can see. The entire horizon is covered in smoke. I've heard tales of people who are closer to where some of these fires are, but not, like, in the area where they need to immediately evacuate. Like, they get up and they're just sweeping ash off of their back decks in the morning, just because there's so much of it in the air, and then it just settles, and it's wild. Anyway, so we got a bit more rain today, which is going to help. I think we're supposed to get more tomorrow. Now, of course, there's also a chance we might get a thunderstorm, which if we get lightning without rain, that might make things worse. Um, Another thing, people are tracking a hurricane that's supposed to come up this way. People are tracking a hurricane that's supposed to come up this way next week. And this is one of the rarest times I can think of where I'm thinking, like, man, I really hope we do get hit by that hurricane. For the rain, if nothing else. I don't really think the wind is going to help, but if we get a pile of rain with it, that'd be nice. Because I think every firefighting service on the island is just actively deployed trying to deal with this shit. And they've also got some people from surrounding provinces. I think the military and the Coast Guard are getting involved. It's not a good scene, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Didn't mean to start the stream with all this doom and gloom, but this is what we've been dealing with the past couple of weeks. And I just consider myself very fortunate that I haven't had to directly deal with any of it. The worst that we had to deal with was, again, the smoke, which a couple of days was getting me pretty lightheaded, I must admit. And there was a chance that a large chunk of the city might have had its power knocked out, because one of the big fires that happened just outside of the city was probably going to affect one of the main lines that provides power to the city. I didn't notice any power interruptions. Might still happen because, again, things are still actively on fire. But hopefully, now that the weather has turned, maybe it'll get better? Maybe it'll get better. I don't know. All I know is it's Friday. Alcohol helps. I mean, not necessarily because it's dehydrating, but you know, that's why I go get some water later. Yes, good. It's my little ramble about that. I just find it really funny, though, in a very, very dark way, that, you know, they've been hyping up having the Canada Games here for over a year. And they finally get here, and basically all this literal conflagration that's been going on kicks off and really ramps up basically the exact time everybody gets here for the Canada Games. So on the one hand, we have this massive celebration and this giant sporting event, and just a half-hour drive outside of where it's happening, everything's burning down. It's such a very, very weird contrast. But that's life, I guess. Because it's in my head, I don't know. I also have to comment on something that kind of pisses me off too. Is that it's hard to say what kicked off some of the larger fires, but they know pretty much for a fact that some of the smaller ones that cropped up that they thankfully managed to tamp down. Like there's a spot not too far outside the city. Well, I can't 100% remember. It's not too far outside the city. You don't have to go too far to get there, but it's a spot called Whitburn. Like there's like the highway goes by that. There was not like small, decent sized blades, but nowhere near as bad as the ones that they seen. I think it was yesterday or the day before, so they had to go put out a small blaze that was happening there. So it was a decent chunk of land off the highway that was on fire. So they went out there, they put it out, they investigated around, and they figure what probably happened is somebody tossed a goddamn cigarette out of their car as they were driving by. And then everything ignited, because the grass is that goddamn dry. Again, we haven't had any rain, not counting what we had today. We haven't had any rain since the 30th of July. And we're currently going through a heat wave. It's been consistent, like today is the coldest day we've had in roughly a week. It's been consistently like 30-ish degrees Celsius or more every day. It's been fucking madness. And normally we have a lot of humidity. We have not had a lot of humidity this past week. Today is the most humid day we've had in ages. And like all the grass outside is basically turned into hay. It's all turned completely brown. So I'm kind of interested to see now after this bit of rain we had if the the plant life has improved any. So I'm gonna go out and have a look tomorrow. But we're gonna need a hell of a lot more rain than that to actually bring everything back to life. Anyway, I think that's enough me rambling about this stuff that's beyond my control and I know very little about.